Hi all, welcome to week 5. Some of you may be thinking to yourself, wow, that's a lovely hat. That's my hair. So don't ask. Moving on. So, topics for this week are qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. But before we jump into that, I do want to talk a little bit about the proposal and the paper. So I know you've seen a little bit of buzz about this on the boards and from Professor Bernadine, so I want to clarify. The proposal is an ungraded assignment, and for me, for our group, it is optional. If you want to submit it, you can, but you do not have to. Not all of the other groups do it that way, but because I'm the one who grades everything, trust me, I'm giving you the option, partially because I know you already have a lot of work to do, and also because not everybody needs it or benefits from it, in my experience. So if you want to do the proposal and send it to me, I know some of you have, and I will give you feedback. If you want to do it and just bounce some ideas off of me for your project, great. I'm happy to look at it and give you feedback. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have the time, you don't think it's necessary, that's okay. Then don't do it. It's not a big deal. So that's it on the proposal. On the final paper slash project. So one thing that I noticed this term that Dr. Bernadine is doing differently in the past is she is actually allowing you to make up the data. This is new. This in the past, we have been pretty insistent that the projects be real and that the cost and scheduling data that you analyze also be real. So I think this is actually a nice easing up on the flexibility. So if you have a real project that gives you access to some pretty good cost and schedule data and you want to use that, great, then do that. But if you don't, if you're panicking and you're already thinking ahead to next week and you're like, I have no idea what I'm going to do, I don't know what project I should use, I don't know where I'm going to get cost and schedule data, or you might be in the type of job where they won't release cost and schedule data to you. So if you find yourself in those situations, and you want to invent the data, that's fine, according to Dr. Bernadine. So go for it. Just obviously be sure that your data is plausible. Data, as you know, for a realistic project, it's the data isn't perfect, so it shouldn't form this like perfect curve and yada yada yada. Try and make it plausible based on your expertise and your knowledge of the project. Just be sure that in your paper, and this is probably the most important thing, that you remember that this paper should focus on cost, schedule, and risk. In 642, as I mentioned previously, the focus was on things like the network, your forward and backward passes, all kinds of things, and your scope statement. And actually, for this project, I don't need those deliverables. I don't need to see your scope statement, and I will remind you of this in my week 6 video. But I don't need to see your scope statement. I don't need to see your network. I don't need to see any of that. I want you to focus your paper on cost, schedule, and risk analysis. Those are the big things. So think about all of that as you get ready for your paper and your project. Now, moving on to the content in this week's assignment. Um, so you'll remember again, we did qualitative and quantitative risk in 642. Um, in my past experience, in my most of my groups, the qualitative risk assessment was required and the quant was optional. In this week's assignment, you have to do both. They're both required because it's time to delve more deeply into them. As the instructions state, you can do your final project, which I recommend if you know it and you're comfortable with it and you have the data, because it will give you a leg up on the paper. But you can do any project that interests you. You can do a wedding, a birthday party, a social event, a fundraising event, anything you like. Um, for the qual, don't be shy about using color. Use the red, yellow, green system. It's universal, it's common. You'll see it everywhere in project management, so I encourage you to do it. There's a lot of research about this. So, also for top points, be sure to include outside research and include your risk response slash risk management strategy in your qualitative analysis. For the quantitative, what you should do is pick one major issue and do a decision tree. So what that means is, there's all these different risks, that you'll identify in your qual. Focus on a really high risk, high impact one, and then do the EMV decision tree for it. Now, some companies will devalue the monetary aspect of EMV. If you find it's more impactful for your particular employer, to use resource hours or some other kind of metric in your EMV, it might be an RMV or something like that. Go for it. That's okay. But I would say just most executives, most of you, I think, will probably do money because the bottom line is important even in nonprofits. So I would, think about doing the EMV, but know that if you want to use a different metric, you can. Just again, don't forget, just pick one real important issue that you identify in your qual and do the full decision tree analysis on that. The write up is what you've been doing. Try and include a few scholarly articles. Some of you are kind of repurposing the same books over and over. Try and expand. Try and find another article or two and you'll be in good shape. The good news is there's tons of articles in the literature on risk management, so you shouldn't have any issue whatsoever finding articles. This is a very universal topic in project management, so you shouldn't have any problem finding references for this week. So that's pretty it. I think that's pretty much it. I think this assignment is fairly straightforward, and typically people do very well on it. So enjoy it, and good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.